Hey everyone, it's Justine and welcome to a new video tutorial. Today I'm going to be creating 5 cards with you, and I'm going to be using the very new life-changing blender brush set that, well, is more new to me than it is really new. They're these beautiful, almost like makeup brushes that make blending super easy. They have this flexible handle here, which makes it easy to push into the paper, and they come in a variety of sizes. My personal recommendation after creating with them is definitely to get the top 3 largest sizes, but I am going to show you how to use some of the smaller brushes in your crafting as well. So the first thing that I fell in love with when I first tried out these brushes, I was able to actually try them out from a friend at Creativation. She introduced me to them. And I really love the way that it was just effortless, that it was super easy to blend. So it's something I get on my channel a lot. I'm not able to blend like you. It takes so much practice. These are really super easy. So I'm going to go ahead and rub this in some Distress Oxide ink, and I'm going to show you just how easy it is. It's going to go with the same procedure as doing it with a foam or a blending tool. Start off the cardstock and work your way in. And what I truly appreciate about these colors is it really brings out those really light colors that we had before so well. So I remember when I would go in with a blending tool with a very light pale pastel color, I would have to blend for ages in order to get anything to really even show up. And this just creates such a beautiful blend with limited effort. The other thing I love, and something I even struggled with even with lots of practice, is getting that beautiful fade from one color into white, just kind of how the card looks right now. I'm actually going to finish up the card pretty much right now, but you can see how it just fades so beautifully into the white and effortlessly. So you can go ahead and just continue to add as much color as you like and build it up as you go. I like how the brushes just create such a beautiful smooth blend, so you don't have to worry about getting any sort of bristle marks or any harsh lines or anything like that. And if you happen by chance to actually put the brush in the middle of the page when you first start blending and you do get a harsh line, it's quite easy to buff out. I'm also going to be finishing up these cards at the end of the video with some beautiful sentiment stamps from Picket Fence Studios where these brushes were purchased. So in order to clean up my glass mat here after Distress Oxide use, I always just spray it with some water using my Distress sprayer or any spray bottle you may have, and just clean it up with a cloth. I use a microfiber cloth personally. The next thing I'm going to be using some stencils to do some ink blending for this one, and this one here actually comes in a stamp and stencil set. And I used the stamp actually in a previous video, and you can check that out with the video description below. And this is just such a gorgeous layering stencil set, and I really wanted to show this off. So I'm going to be using a variety of the size brushes. Now, I'm not using a particular brush for any particular reason here. I just grabbed my largest brushes here because I'm covering a larger surface. I probably should have actually grabbed my largest brush for this one since it's the largest full area space. So I'm just going in with the first layer here. This is the first layer of the stencil, and it's just a large solid circle, as you can see. I actually went ahead and added some refill to my ink here because I thought it was getting a little dry, and it ended up creating a bit of a harsh line because I didn't start off the page, but that's okay because I'm going to buff it out using the brush, and then I'm also going to be layering on top, so it's really not a big deal if I'm not getting the most even shade of color right now. That can happen, of course, when you just add some re-inker to your ink pads. I'm now going to go ahead and place the next stencil on top. Now, I wasn't too sure on a particular order with these stencils. They don't have like stencil A, B, C, D or 1, 2, 3, 4. So I just went ahead and kind of started with that circle, which I believe goes first. And then I'm not really sure which layers these are supposed to go in first, but it all lines up perfectly with that circle in the center. And this time I got a little bit smarter, and I actually attached some purple tape behind my cardstock. So I attached my stencil to the paper and attached my stencil to my glass mat because things move around and that's how it is. So I'm now going in with some peacock feathers, And this is a beautiful shade as well. The first shade I used was Tumbled Glass, which was my lightest shade of blue that I own. And I'm going in with all of these next layers here, again with using one of the brush, a smooth motion, starting mainly off of the paper. But since I'm using a stencil, I can just start on a more solid area of the stencil and that'll be okay too. And when I remove this, it's just absolutely stunning. And of course, you don't have to use all 4 layers of the stencil, but they all do come in the pack with the stamp. You can always just use 1 or 2 or 3 of the layers and just build up your color and see what you like. Completely up to you and what kind of design you're going to be looking for. So now I'm just going to pull off my stencil now. I always keep a bucket of hot water, or warm water rather, with soap over to the side when I'm stenciling, and I just kind of throw them in. And that way I can easily keep them wet and moist before they start to stain, and I can go ahead and wash them properly later. All it takes is some soap and water, or generally just water, but you could use Dawn soap as well if necessary. Now going on to my 3rd layer, I am going to speed up the video a little bit so you don't get too bored until the end of this card panel. So once again, if you only own 1 of these brushes, that's okay. You can wash in between, but it'll probably be a little bit challenging. And these brushes come in so many sizes, why not get the whole set really? Or at least a set of the whole big ones. Because honestly, there's nothing easier with blending than it is with these brushes. They're fantastic. And on this layer, you'll even see me use the tiniest of brushes just to really get in there. So I used my largest brush here, and I smushed this layer here that is Salty Ocean. And then I went in and added a little blueprint sketch, which is darker. I was able to go into some of those smaller areas there with my smaller brush just to add a little bit of interest. I could have also added some more to the other areas. And you can see just how gorgeous this background turned out. I absolutely think that stencil is just stunning. So all you need to do is just go wash these with soap and water if you need to switch up your colors. And what I do is I just grab a paper towel and just kind of rub it into the paper towel to help the drying process along. Or you can just let them sit for a few hours if you'd like. But personally, I just found this to be a lot easier. You could also, if you'd like to invest in lots of brushes, you can invest in 1 per color or 1 per color family, like 1 for the blues and 1 for the pinks and 1 for the purples. It's completely up to you. I wanted to give these a try first before I decided to make any sort of investment, but I am absolutely in love with them, so I'm probably going to invest 1 per color family. My next design here is a card that I've actually created before. I created a video with my 8 life-changing stencils, I believe it was called, or must-have stencils, and this one was on there. I think the stencil is stunning and I continue to use it to this day, so I just love when I get to use my supplies more than once in videos, and I always enjoy doing that. It's a double layer stencil, but super easy to line up. And what I love again is I'm going to be able to show you just how beautiful the lightest colors of the Distress Oxide line or inks in general are. So I'm going to be going in with that shaded lilac. That was a color before that I had quite a hard time getting to show up on my paper without doing extensive blending. And you can just see how easy and effortlessly this color goes onto the page. What I also love is that if you've already practiced ink blending before with a blending tool or with sponge daubers or anything, all of those techniques that you were doing before, practicing in a circular motion, not adding too much pressure, starting off the cardstock and working your way on, are all going to be applicable to these brushes as well. I just find because of all these tiny bristles, it's just a lot easier and you get a lot less harsh lines. So just lining up this stencil B now, and you'll see that all of the plastic areas of this one line up with the white areas from before. And I'm going to go in with some Wilted Violet, which is a little bit of a different color combination. Definitely very light to very dark contrasts, but I think it's going to look great in the end. And you'll see just how fast it was to actually ink blend this. I want to also mention how long it took me to create these cards. 25 minutes for all 5 of them. That includes stamping and doing all of the blending. So it really is quite quick and easy. I'm going to show you one more here, and I am going to just let you know that I just re-inked my stamp ink pads here because I noticed they were low. And in my next card, you'll see how they were before I inked them. So my Distress Oxides have been well used and well loved for quite a long time, and I think it was just time to do that. And you'll see how easy the color goes on this. This is a stencil from Memory Box, and it's really pretty. You can do as many rotations as you like. I'm just doing a little bit of a geometric pattern and nothing too special. The colors I decided for this one are Squeezed Lemonade, Spiced Marmalade, as well as Picked Raspberry. And if you're curious as to when you have to re-ink your ink pads, then you'll see here in this card how long it took me to actually build up my color. So for me, my blend, this is my usual blend. This is what I do all the time. Squeezed Lemonade, Carved Pumpkin, Picked Raspberry, Wilted Violet. It's my favorite color combination and I use it all the time for a sort of rainbow look. And you'll see just how long it took me to build up that color in comparison to the last card that I showed you. So this one I actually created before the one, but I did want to show you the difference of how it should look when you're putting the ink on here and how fast it should build up. Now for this card here, I'm going in between, which means I am going with the yellow, then I did the orange, and I go back in with the yellow, back in with the orange. And that way I'm creating this really seamless blend. And I really wish I had everything all refilled here because I think that would have turned out even more beautiful. But going back and forth between the last color you did and the current color really makes a difference in getting that perfect blend. But you can see just how gorgeous this blend is in itself, and how easy it is with these blendable brushes. You really can't go wrong. If you have any questions about the blendable brushes, be sure to just leave a comment below and I will get back to you and answer those questions as best I can, or if there's anything I can try out for you to let you know if it works or not, just let me know. Now goes on to the fun part of stamping. Now Picket Fence Studios was so kind to include a couple of sentiment stamps with the brushes that I had purchased, and so I thought I would use some of them today. So on this top of the mandala card, I am going to be using the It's Going to Be Okay stamp set. I love the sentiment, breathe, it's just a bad day, not a bad life. I think that is such a great little inspirational quote for someone who's going through a little bit of a hard time. In order to stamp, I am going to be using my Misty stamping tool with the fancy new white stickers on it, and I'm going to stamp it a couple of times because Distress Oxide ink, because it's a pigment, happens to go through the black sometimes, so I like to stamp it a couple times to ensure that it gets a nice clean impression. On the inside of my card, I'm going to be adding the other stamp from this set, It Will Be Okay Eventually, which I think is also really inspirational and so true for people when they're going through a hard time, that it will be okay, you just might have to wait a little while. And that is going to be perfectly stamped on the inside, outside, and of course I can add my personalized stamp to the back if I feel like it before I send it out. For the next stamp, I'm going to be using the Happiness Belongs to You stamp, and I chose this really large focal sentiment, Have a Lovely Day. I love how Picket Fence stamps are a very large variety, not only of fonts, but of sizes, so you can have some that are focal points, some that are perfect for the insides of cards, etc., etc. So I love the variety in the stamps, especially the ones that I was sent, and they have just some really lovely different sayings. So this one I didn't add anything to the inside of my card. I thought it was pretty straightforward. Same with the next card, but the other two I did finish on the inside as well, which is something I don't show very often in my cards. I decided to add the We Really Miss You stamp set. It's definitely something that from the Simply Wonderful stamp set, something I need to send quite often since living overseas. I definitely have a lot of friends that I miss. I like how this one here is also kind of mismatched, and I like how it doesn't have to really look super straight on your card, although I probably could have straightened it out a little better than I did. The next one is this absolutely gorgeous subtle blend from pink to white, and I love this stamp set here called Crafty Mail, Love Peace Craft, hashtag Stay Crafty, chocolate enclosed, must make stuff, I make cards, what's your superpower, happy mail, lots of craftiness inside, and my favorite, I licked this envelope with my spit. If I ever have to lick an envelope with my tongue, my friend better know about it because I think that's super disgusting. Are there any other envelope licker haters here in the club? Is that even a word? I don't even know. Anyway, I stamped the hashtag Stay Crafty. I have a lot of crafty friends that I send cards to, and they're probably who I send the most cards to. And I, of course, went ahead, stamped the envelope as well with that really funny sentiment that I licked this envelope with my spit. And I think that's just really hilarious to add to the back of an envelope, but of course you have to know your audience when you're sending that for sure. On the inside of this card as well, I decided to add one of the longer sentiments that I don't think would be great to put on the front of a card, so I like that it's kind of designated for that. And it says, I'm sending this to you because only a crafty friend would understand. And that is so true. Our crafty friends really are the ones that understand us best, aren't they? The next one, which is this beautiful background, I didn't want to distract from it too much, so I added a Thinking of You stamp. And this stamp here is from the Ways to Say Get Well. And I used the Thinking of You, and then in the inside, Wishes for Your Speedy Recovery. I definitely need this card at the moment. And I also love how Picket Fence has another one that says Ways to Say Let's Drink, and that stamp set is definitely something, as I'm looking through the website here, that I'm going to be getting. It has such a funny variety of sentiments that are so rare that I don't see, and of course those that don't drink alcohol, it's not for you, but for those of us who enjoy their glass of wine now and again, I will definitely partake in this stamp set. So I think that's adorable. Here's a look at all 5 of the cards that I created with these ink blends and the sentiments from Picket Fence, and I hope you enjoyed this card tutorial today. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if you like licking envelopes or not. And here you can of course check out some other video tutorials for my channel, and be sure to subscribe and hit that bell button there. It's going to let you know and notify you every time I post a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye now.